everyone, I'm Edyta Sitar from Laundry Basket Quilts. Welcome to Quilting Window. I am so thankful and so excited that you took the time and wanted to quilt with me. Come on, we're gonna do a quilt along. This beautiful quilt called Winter Village, it's the topping of our second quilt along. We just finished our beautiful Alaska and now it's time to build a village. Are you ready? Come on, I'm gonna show you how to do it. Every week I'm gonna be posting videos and blogs on our website that you will be able to follow me along and make this beautiful quilt. And don't you worry, do not try to build the whole village at once. One house at a time, and I'm gonna talk you right to it. Today we're gonna make that first section of our quilt, the first 3 houses. What do you need? You don't need much. You just need a basic sewing supplies, rotary, ruler, and a pattern. In our pattern, Winter Village pattern, you're gonna find the cutting directions. You need this pattern because you wanna pre-cut your pieces before we start sewing and be ready for every week so you can just go ahead and make your blocks. And I already pre-cut all my pieces. What else? I have it in my sewing basket. It's a beautiful fabrics. You can go ahead and purchase a kit. This is the Winter Village kit. This is exact the same fabrics that I have it in my quilt behind me, and you have everything that you need for the whole quilt, including the applique pieces are in the back, but those are in the end. Week number 8 we're gonna talk about those. For now you just need all your fabrics. If you just want to try, you maybe want to purchase the table runner version of this. It's just this section of the quilt and it will allow you to try the first 3 houses and see how you like. In my sewing basket, I brought some goodies. We have beautiful threads from Aurifil, the Touch of Brew, the Signature Style. You do not have to purchase all of those things. I'm just showing you things that would be fun and exciting if you would like to. A nice thread, 2310 is what I'm going to be sewing with it. This one is perfect for applique. I do like my low pencil to mark. I'm gonna put that right next to me. This is Saw Line pencil. We're gonna be marking on our fabric. Always starting a new project, put a new blade, get a nice rotary. That's so important to have a nice tools to cut it, because if you cut good, then everything works nice. Putting a fresh needle in your sewing machine, and I'm using Macrotex needle 70 for my piecing, sharp. This is really nice. So those are just a few things. Many of you that have been quilting with me already have those things, so grab it, reuse it. Also, if you just want to do your own version of the quilt, we do have a Blue Sky bundles, fat quarter bundles. Visit our website at laundrybasketquilts.com and enjoy it. But in the end, if you have a stash, dive into your stash, pull up some of those cute fabrics and start making houses. And just to encourage you, you can do this quilt in blue and white, but if you want it, you can go for more rainbow, scrappy version of the quilt and do the summer village. Oh, this is gonna be fun no matter what. Or maybe you want to build a Halloween village. Do your houses in grays and blacks and just settle down with some little bit of an orange here or there. So many fun ideas. I cannot wait to see your houses every week, and make sure if you're posting pictures on your Instagram or Facebook, tag us. I love seeing your progress and admire your beautiful projects. So hashtag Laundry Basket Quilts, hashtag Winter Village Quilt Along. So those are wonderful ways for tag me on it so I can see your beautiful project. Enough talking, let's look at the pattern. We're gonna open the pattern, and this is a large pattern, so there is a lot of pages. When I work with big patterns like this, I like to get a folder and I put my pages in the folder. For today, I'm just gonna open it up and you're gonna see this first page kind of right here, explain it to you, the sections that we're gonna be working on it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So next 8 weeks, tune in every Friday and I will be there quilting with you. For today, we're gonna need a block 1, what it's a house 1, 2, and 3. So I'm gonna put those pages right next to me, right here. I'm gonna put the rest away so I'm not fighting and losing my pages. I'm gonna put it to the side right there. Perfect. And you can follow the cover for cutting and color chart just to see how I did things. But guess what? If you make your house a little bit different blue, no one will ever notice, and maybe it's gonna even come out better than mine. So do not stress about the colors. As long you're using nice varieties of blues, it's gonna be beautiful. And just a little advice, if you're choosing your own fabrics, make sure I'm using medium and light blues for the houses, and I'm using dark blues for my appliques. That gives the three-dimensional look to the quilt. So that's just a little advice right there. All right, we're gonna start with our first block, and we're gonna cut all our pieces. We're gonna cut the top piece right here. This is eye, and this is for the sky. We're gonna cut 2 rectangle in light, 1 square, 1 rectangle in blue. This is gonna be our chimney, and I cut that from the same fabric that I cut the house. I'm gonna cut my rectangles for my little house, top and a bottom strip for the window, and another rectangle right here. So those pieces all cut following the directions in the pattern, one after the other. And little advice, and when I teach my class, I like to do this with my students. I teach them, you go ahead and look at your first piece, cut it, mark it off that you cut it, mark it off that you cut it, and you keep going like this, just like a shopping list. You go to the store, you mark it off, you got this, you got this, you got this, so that way you don't lose a track. And you know, sometimes I cut something, I go ahead in the kitchen, mix my supper, and then I come back and then I forget what I was. So having those marks are really nice because it tells you where did you left off. Once you're gonna cut it, you're gonna cut only 1 block. You're gonna be ready, set, go. I put my block right next to me. My sewing machine is right here, and I have it right here on the left side, right in front of me. Right away, as I'm cutting, I'm paying attention to some of the directions of the fabrics. And notice, I want my flowers to go in the same direction. So I put all my flowers going up in this case. I'm gonna show you something later on. It does not have to all go up, just so all the flowers go in the same direction. As soon as you finish, first thing, we're gonna check your 1/4 inch seam allowance. First step, you're gonna take those 2 pieces, you're gonna put them right sides together, just like this. You're gonna sew it with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. You're gonna open, push the seam allowance towards the dark, and you're gonna go ahead and finish by sewing the next strip right to it. That it's a, and an H in the middle. Sew it, open it up. I just finished one. Look at this. As soon as you finish, like I said, you're gonna push your seam allowance towards the center. Press it, ready, set, go. But before you go into the next step, it is time to check your 1/4 inch seam allowance. If you have done the right on cutting, and if you have sewn with a good 1/4 inch seam allowance, then when you grab your ruler and you place it right over this unit, notice it, it should be 3.5 by 3.5 right there. 3.5 by 3.5. If something is too big, it means your 1/4 inch seam allowance was too small. If it's too small, it means your 1/4 inch seam allowance was too big. You need to adjust this, and it is time to adjust right now. This is the time. So measure it, should be 3.5 by 3.5. If you've done it, you're good to go. From now, follow that 1/4 inch seam allowance so all your beautiful pieces work great. And now we're gonna do a step 2 where we go ahead and we're gonna place this over our roof rectangle. This is our roof, and I'm going to place it this way. I want to make a chimney. I want to create a unit like this, okay? Flying geese unit. I am paying attention to my chimney, and I want the chimney to lay horizontal with my roof. So that way when I draw my line, and I'm gonna go ahead, grab my ruler. Oh, I have my cute little blue mark. Oh, my favorite is here. I almost forgot it. Perfect. So I'm gonna get my wonderful pencil. Super. I love this one, and I'm using the pink one so I can see it. I'm gonna place my ruler just like this, point to point, and I'm gonna draw a line. And I have to tell you, with years I have learned something. When I do my flying geese units this way, I have to remember that when I'm stitching, I stay on this side right here, right there, when I'm stitching, because when I turn things over, I need enough fabric to turn over my thread and the stitch. So it is important, just draw a point to point, but when I'm sewing, I'm just standing on this side of the line. If I stay on the line, when I turn it over, I'm always short. So I don't know, it's maybe just me. Try it, maybe it will help you as well. So what I like to do, I stitch right there on this side, flip it open. Perfect. Notice it. When I flip this open, everything is right. All my fabric is going in the right direction. You're gonna say, well, why didn't you do it this way? Look what happened. Look what happened. No, we don't have a chimney going sideways. We don't want to do that. Let's do this way. So we're gonna go ahead, stitch it, and as soon as we stitch, we have a beautiful, beautiful piece. I'm gonna pull those pins away. We have a beautiful piece, and flip it open. Now as soon as you flip it open, you're gonna press it, and you're gonna trim right there. Actually trim it before you press. Trim 1/4 inch right here away from the seam, that triangle, and flip it open. Wonderful. Now it's time for our second side. So again, I'm gonna place my beautiful square, and I'm still paying attention. Notice I have direction on the fabric. So remember, we want to put it horizontal. We're gonna draw a line, stitch, flip it open, and we have the other side of our beautiful roof. Hold on, I have to show you what's happened next. We're gonna go ahead and take this to this, sew it, flip it open, add this wonderful bottom of the window. As soon as we do that, we're gonna add a right, and then we're gonna go ahead and a left. Every time you sew, you're gonna push your seam allowance towards the dark. And in the pattern, anytime when I broke the rules of pressing, I made an error and show you this is what I'm doing. You do not have to agree with me. This is just suggestion. And notice it on our roof. When I press my first seam, I press towards dark, but my second seam right here, after sewing, I'm gonna press it towards the light. So that's what I broke that rule right there. Here, all the seams are gonna be going towards the dark. Everything is looking beautiful. Let me go ahead and show you how I did with those. Oh, wonderful. This is gonna be amazing. Right there, roof is finished. This is finished. Notice it. Do you see the difference? The seam allowance going up right here, and the seam allowance are going down. Why did I do this? Because I want a less bulk right here. I noticed it was fighting and popping my low rooftop, and I just didn't want that. And I also knew that I'm gonna go ahead and place this fabric right sides together, so it was a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and when I come over that point, it's gonna be bumpy there. So I want a nice smooth transition. Stitch it, flip it open right there. I'm gonna put my pins to the side. I'm gonna use them in just a little bit. Yes, I love to pin beginning and end, especially. Stitch it right there, finish. Then you're gonna go ahead and place this right sides together, sew it, flip it open, and as soon as you do this, you're gonna go ahead and press it. I'm gonna press towards the top, and here you you have to choose for yourself. I pressed towards the bottom. Why? Because it was easier for me to push those two seams down, then make this a little bit bulky. I want it nice and smooth because I want a nice transition right here. And this is sashing. What is so clever about this quilt, every time we're gonna make a block, we're gonna add a sashing right away to it, another sashing, so that way later on you don't have to sew your sashings to the quilt. They're already ready, set, go for you. I'm gonna place my sashing right sides together, pin, 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 sew it with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and you are ready, set, go with your first block. And you need to now cut your fabric for your second block, and I am so excited about that one. So as soon as I finish my first block, I flip the pattern. House number 2 is right here. I'm gonna go ahead, place it down, and I'm gonna start cutting my pieces. I'm gonna do a sky in light, beautiful. Then I'm going to go ahead and cut my beautiful roof, then windows. And again, remember, we're going through the list A, B, C, D, and mark it all off, one thing after the other, mark it all off. And we are going to have the most beautiful little barn. Let me see. All the pieces are coming together. Wonderful. Oh, it looks like, yes, I thought I was missing, but no, it was just stuck together. So right there, this is fantastic. We need to separate those. Beautiful, 1 and 1. So look at it. I'm cutting all my beautiful pieces, and again, I'm paying attention to direction of the fabric, because guess what? I want all the strips going the same way on my little barn. This is gonna be my little barn, house number 2. Then for the door, I'm going to cut 1/4 square triangles. I'm gonna cut 2 squares just like this, and let me show you. I'm gonna move this to the side just a little bit, and I'm gonna cut a squares, and I'm gonna go ahead, place my ruler, and this is the most traditional way to do this, and I'm gonna go ahead and cut twice diagonally for 4/4 square triangles. I am doing this because I want to show you something that happens. Notice this fabric has lines as well. I want the lines to match on my door, so I am going to select the 2 opposite one. That way everything will go really nice, and I'm gonna put those aside for another door. And look at it, under there I had my other blue, so now I have 4/4 square triangles where I can place them right sides together, just like this. Stitch, right sides together, stitch, and then open it up, lock the seams, and make a beautiful 1/4 square triangle unit that is gonna become our door. So you are super excited about that, I can tell. Let me see where we are right now. The next, we just finished our 1/4 square triangle unit. I'm gonna go ahead, place my ruler right over, and I'm going to match this line right there, with the center of my seam right here, and I'm gonna go ahead, place it beautiful, and trim it to a perfect 4.5 by 4.5 1/4 square triangle unit. I have learned over the years to make a really nice 1/4 square triangle unit. Use your 1/4 inch seam allowance a little bit shy. That way it gives you more room to trim it and make a beautiful block. Before you start cutting, always use best press. So notice that we have our wonderful 1/4 square triangle unit done. We're gonna add a top to it, then the sides, just like this. You're gonna put it right sides together, stitch, then you're gonna go ahead, this side, stitch. We're gonna finish this unit of the block. Wonderful. Now we're gonna go ahead and proceed by sewing our top of the window stitch, push seam allowance towards the dark, bottom of the window, wonderful. Sew this strip to it and do the same thing right here. And I already prepared those for you. Isn't that wonderful? Right there, hold on, I'm gonna show it to you. I have prepared those. Look at this. Oh, our little units right there, and they're gonna want to be twisting and turning, so make sure they're staying nice and clean, nice and even, nice and clean. And we go ahead and add this other one right there. So look at this. I'm gonna place it right over just like this, pin it, and sew it. Make sure you pin it and keep it nice and steady. You don't want the as you sewing your strip, you don't want them to shift and then your barn is not nice and even. So doing this would be wonderful. In the meantime, we're gonna go ahead and sew a roof to the sky, roof to the sky. Look at this, I did that. And now as soon as we finish this part, we're gonna go ahead, open it up, press it. All seam allowance are going towards the dark. We're gonna sew this to this, this to this, and now this to this. Oh, I am so excited for you. What a wonderful, wonderful way of making a nice little garage or barn, whatever you would like to call that. That is so much fun. Now, before I show you my finished block, I wanted to show you something else. I know we just talked about it, how you just cut your quarter square triangles. You're gonna go ahead, sew them, then you're gonna go ahead, place them right sides together just like this, pin it through the middle, sew it. So that was the traditional way. If you are following me, you've seen me doing this multiple times, but I want to show you something different this time. Would you like to learn another way of making quarter square triangle? Let's take two squares, two different color squares. We're gonna cut them exact the same size, 5 1/4, just like we were cutting the ones before. But this time, we're not gonna cut yet into quarter square triangle. We're just gonna draw a line where we wanted to cut it. So I'm gonna take a ruler, place it right over, and draw a line. Perfect. As soon as I draw that line, I'm gonna sew it on one side and on the other side, staying a 1/4 inch away from that line. All right, as soon as I finish that, I'm gonna go ahead, let me take this apart so you see where this came from. I'm gonna go ahead, now I'm gonna cut it right on that line. As soon as I cut it, as I open it, I'm gonna push my seam allowance towards that same fabric, okay? And I now have two half square triangles. I'm gonna go ahead, place them right sides together, matching opposite fabric, this one to this and this one to this. Do you see what happened? I'm gonna put a pin in it so nothing shifts and move, okay? Beautiful. Oh, I love doing this. This is such an easy way to do your quarter square triangle. Make sure you put the pins right on the sides, on the seams. Everything is locking. Now you go ahead and draw another line. Now you're gonna sew on the left and the right of that line. Super. As soon as you finish sewing, you're gonna cut it. And now after you cut it, look what happened. You have two quarter square triangle units in no time. Isn't that wonderful? So you can go ahead and do it this way. And since we have two beautiful garages that gonna use quarter square triangle, you can make it for both. Because I want my doors to be a little bit different, I went for the custom and cut my quarter square triangle because I want the colors to be a little bit different. But guess what? If you're quilting with your girlfriend, you make two garage doors, swap it with her, and she can make the same garage doors, different garage doors for this one and swap it with you. How is that? We need a little fun with our friends. But like I promised you, let me show you house number 2. Isn't that beautiful? I am so pleased with it. Guess what? Remember, press your fabric before cutting. especially when it's big pieces. Use your best press from the back, get that little stiffness, that way everything will gonna come out nice and beautiful. And remember, pin, pin, and pin when you sewing, because it is so easy to start at the right place but pull your fabric and end up someplace else. And on a long distance, there's a long way that you could veer off and make mistakes. So pinning is one of the most important things. And look at this, we have a beautiful little garage. Wonderful. Now it's time for our house number 3. I'm not rushing through it. Oh, and I just forgot it. As soon as you finish block number 2, don't forget that sashing. Don't forget that sashing. You're gonna place it right sides together, pin, 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 sew it, flip it open, and you have it ready, set, go, waiting when it's time to assemble your beautiful, beautiful quilt. So now our last block for today, it is going to be, we have block number 3. Let me pull it to the front. Do you see what I'm doing? I'm pulling my pattern right in front of me so that way I can peek at it. I'm gonna grab my pencil. I need the A. Where's my A? Perfect. Need an A. Super. Always lay out your project. It's so important, especially when you're just cutting one block. You want to make sure that all the pieces are where they're supposed to be. Your C, you mark it off. Got it. I mark my A off. Mark it off the list. Oh, this is like potato chips. I'm telling you, when you make one house, you're gonna be wanting to make another one and another one and another one. I tell you, you can't stop it. It is just wonderful. This is our D right there. Again, I would have go ahead and mark it off as I cut it. And all that I'm doing is pressing my fabric, following ruler, cutting strips, then section my strips to what I need, and I'm following the direction. So if I need a 3 by 6.5, I'm gonna cut it 3-inch strips and get a 6.5 out of it. And I have to tell you, with your first blocks, you're gonna get into routine. The measurements will repeat over and over again. I based them on 3-inch, 2-inch, 1.5, so many of the strips will repeat it. All right, this is our cute little chimney right there. So F, chimney F, got it. So much fun. Then I have my wonderful sky. And notice, I chose the same fabric, just different color. I'm gonna go ahead and rotate my chimney so the lines are going this way. It reminds me like bricks. Oh, this is so cute. And this right here go right there. We have our window, one, another one, wonderful, and another window, and our wonderful door. Super. We're gonna start by sewing this and this together. Just place right sides together, use a 1/4-inch seam allowance, pin it, sew it, wonderful, amazing. Then I'm gonna go ahead and sew this side right to it. Perfect. I'm gonna go ahead, sew this to this. Done. Now let's go for the windows. I'm gonna grab my windows, lay right sides together with the top of it, sew it, flip it open. Push my seam allowance towards the dark. Do the same right here. Sew it, flip it open, sew another window, sew another. So this row, save this to the side, then go ahead and sew the row where you have your door. Oh, it's so much fun. And you're gonna be asking me, should I open my seams? I push my seams towards the dark in this case. Now I'm gonna go ahead, sew this, and I'm gonna get ready to sew those together. But before we go there, I want to show you something. This is important. So sometimes what I have a little problem to align everything. So what I would do is sew this to this, this to this. Now how do I sew this to this right there and make sure that my windows are aligned? Okay, I got it. I got you. Do not worry. Now look what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna fold this piece right there, okay? Crease it gently. So this is my crease. Or if you don't want to do that, you can go ahead and grab a ruler and mark it. I crease it. Why? Because I go ahead and I would do the same thing right here. See the top of that window? I'm gonna go ahead right there, beautiful creases. Make sure that everything is laying down. Okay, so now I have two cute little pinch creases that I can go ahead and now match with the window right here, and this is where I would put my pin. I would go ahead and pin it right there, and I would go ahead and pin it right there on that crease, match it up right here. I have to move this pin, it wasn't exact. See, it's okay to go back and do it exact. So now I pinned it, and when I stitch and when I open the units, my windows are going to be aligned perfectly. As soon as I finish, I go ahead, put this right over, stitch, done. The house is done. We sew this to this, this to this, and it is time to see how beautiful it looks. And this time I'm not going to waste your time to wait for me to sew your strip on the side. Everything is done. Chimney, roof, beautiful, windows matching. I'm delighted. So block number 3 just finished. Oh, aren't you having fun? Take your time, do one house at a time, enjoy it. And girls, I have promised you surprise. So this time I want to take you on another little journey and teach you something fun and exciting. Many times when I finish a project, I end up with those tiny little leftovers, and I'm wondering, oh, if I could just make something small with it. Guess what? Are you ready? Would you like to make a little houses? Oh, do I have fun recipe for you. Every week, I'm gonna teach you how to make a recipe for your little houses. Today, I'm gonna teach you how to do it. I'm gonna refresh with you every week, and in 8 weeks, you will be making all your quilts miniatures. No, just kidding. You're gonna be able to do it smaller. So, let me show you how to achieve this recipe. You're gonna need your pattern again. So let's flip to our first block, and I'm going to post the recipes on my blog. Please understand, I'm only going to place the recipe for you, okay? You need the big pattern to be able to figure it out, rectangles, squares, or anything else. You need the big pattern. I will post the recipe, but let me teach you so that way you can do it from now on for yourself. How do you figure it out recipe? If you have a large block, how do you make it smaller? This is what you need to do. You're gonna go ahead and look at your measurements. And for example, let's look at piece A in your pattern. Piece A, the piece A, it's 2 rectangles that you have to cut 1.5 by 3.5 unfinished. That's what you need to cut to make that unit. So what I do is I look at the measurements. If it's 1.5 by 3.5 unfinished, what size is it finished? It's 1 by 3. I want to make this 50% smaller. So I'm going to divide all the numbers by 2. Divide by 2 if I want to size it down 50%. So 1 divided by 2 equals 1/2 inch. 3 divided by 2 equals 1.5 inch. Correct? Now, this is finished measurements of that low unit that I'm looking for, the unit A. So how am I gonna figure it out? The unfinished, what do I need to cut? You need to add plus 1/2 inch. So 1/2 inch plus 1/2 inch equals 1. 1.5 plus 1/2 inch equals 2. Okay, let's quickly do one more together, and then you're on your own. And like I said, I'm going to give you that recipe. It's my gift to you. Happy quilting. You're gonna find them on our blog. Please make sure you tag us, and if you're making the small quilt, show us how you do it, and be patient because this is something a little extra with what I'm doing already. So this is gonna be just a little extra. You do not mix those recipes with your regular block. So I'm gonna make it clear this is just a recipe for me if you would like to have it. So let's check this out. Now B. B. Let's do B together. B is 3.5 by 3.5 unfinished. That's what you need to cut it. So what is going to be the finished size of that unit? 3 by 3. Let me write this down so that way you see. Oh, I have a nice piece of paper. You see? And you can do that same thing for yourself. So if I need to cut 3.5 by 3.5, okay, unfinished, this is unfinished, this is what I need to cut for B, then I need a 3 by 3 finish divided by 2. 3 divided by 2 is 1.5 by 3 divided by 2, 1.5. Now add a 1/2 inch to it. You cut 2 by 2 and you have your mini quilt. So you have to go through all these measurements on my blog. I'm gonna post A, B, C, and I'm gonna post the measurements that you have to cut it. But guess what? Learn this recipe, refresh, try it, make mistakes. If you learn to do this, you're going forever have a tool to change any of your patterns to a smaller size. Happy quilting! I hope you enjoy our first lesson and look at those little cuties that I will be making with you. So if you can make one, you can make dozen. If you can make a big one, you can make a small block. Happy quilting! Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, visit our website at Laundry Basket Quilts, and happy quilting! Thank you so much for quilting with me.